let's move on to tight ends and wrap this thing up, because I know you each got one of these. We love talking about this guy. This is the Wolves guy, right?
It's my guy, Taysom Hill.
Of course. I mean, I feel like he's infuriating, but it's kind of like watching a car crash. You kind of can't look away.
Exactly. It's not like I love having him on an NFL field. I think it's weird that he continues to get as used as he is. It comes at the expense of Kamara and Olave and all these guys that could otherwise be fantasy monsters. But Taysom Hill is a volume magnet and especially a touchdown magnet. And if you're punting tight end, I really think you should go elite tight end those first 4 or 5 rounds, maybe a Jake Ferguson or an Evan Ingram if you miss out. But if you do get scrambling, you think the run's not going to happen later, and suddenly you're on the back end and you do not have one of those top 7 to 8 tight ends, why not punt with Taysom Hill? He's the tight end 7 and tight end 12 in points per game the past 2 seasons, second in touchdowns across the tight end position in back-to-back seasons. He's been a top 12 tight end in 50% of his games across the past 2 seasons. That includes a 34.3 and 22.4 spike as well. Again, when you're punting tight end at that point, you're hoping for a touchdown or bust. Why not get the guy that's been the number 2 touchdown scorer in back-to-back seasons and also has huge spike week upside in there? And what if this volatility does improve? A lot of people thinking, okay, new offense, they're going to get rid of this guy and move on and use their actual weapons in a more interesting way. No, so far this preseason, he's lining up at running back, tight end, fullback, quarterback, receiver.
Of course he is.
He's all over the place. And you look at even not just in training camp practices, but in the actual preseason games, he's been on with the first team in 20 of 28 snaps, 71%. 2 were out wide, 2 were as the slot receiver, 8 were at tight end, and 9 were in the backfield, and 4 of those were as the fullback. So, like as the report said, he has been a true move-it-all-around place. And Dennis Allen, I think, hates literally every single human being except Taysom Hill. He could not rave about this guy anymore. And literally the last week, 2 days ago, how many football players have you guys seen that are like Taysom? I can't read this one without laughing, but I'm going to try my best.
Go.
How many football players have you guys seen that are like Taysom Hill, that do all the different things he does? It's certainly obviously very unique. And I'm glad we have that skill set on our team that we can hopefully continue to be creative with how we want to utilize him. And really, honestly, hopefully we can get maybe even a little bit more out of him than what we've been able to do this point. I mean, again, like Kendre Miller, your 3rd round, second year running back, wants to kick him in the face, it sounds like, every time he talks about him. But Taysom Hill, my good Lord, drop the pants for Dennis Allen and then let him do his thing, given the way that he talks about him. But again, Kendre Miller, speaking of the guy, he can't stay healthy. It wouldn't shock me at all if like Hill is like actually their backup running back. I know Jamal Williams is on the roster. He is horrible. And I really do think, Hill is kind of fun to talk about. Like, why is this guy getting so much reaches? He's actually not a bad running back. Like, if they actually just decided, let's make him our runner, he's actually pretty good. He is explosive. He sheds tackles, and he has as many goal line carries the past 2 seasons, 30, as Alvin Kamara. So ultimately, maybe it balances out. The volatility isn't quite as crazy, but you're still getting those nut spike weeks. Definitely going to have some decent touchdowns. Maybe even the number 2 touchdown score again among tight ends is in his range of outcomes, given that he's going nowhere. Why not? Tight end 18, tight end 7 and 12 the past 2 years. I think it's if I've done nothing at the position, what better than that? That's exactly what you want is touchdown or bust. This guy hits him at a higher rate than really a lot of the elite guys, honestly, the touchdowns this guy scores.
How many touchdowns has he had over the past 2 years? Do you know? I know he's been way up at the top like both seasons, right? I mean, but
he's been number 2 in back-to-back years. I don't know if I have the exact number of touchdowns. I can look it up while Mo gets
he's the ultimate. Unless I'm remembering this wrong, I know that you guys have the data there, but like he's either blows up or he does nothing. And that's why he just drives me so crazy. I've had him plenty of times. I've owned plenty of Taysom Hill, and sometimes he's made me really happy. And a lot of the times I'm just so furious that I have him. But it's like you said, if you're not going to get one of the top guys, and then you're going to have a guy, he could get you like 32 this week just randomly. Why not go for him? Which, by the way, would be a great shirt. Just Taysom Hill. Why not?
Yeah.
Wear that shirt. Why not? Why not Taysom Hill?
What if it's like, and then the other thing is there was a couple of years ago where like he got a few starts at quarterback. I mean, probably not happening. They have Spencer Rattler, a rookie on the roster, but if he doesn't feel ready and something happens to Carr, there's no more Jameis Winston here. Maybe you're getting a starting quarterback at tight end. I remember when that happened, and it was this is the number one tight end every single week. Like until otherwise, he was a 22-point a week tight end as a quarterback that you could slot in there. Like that is not like it's certainly within the range of outcomes in terms of touchdowns. 2 receiving touchdowns last year, 7 rushing touchdowns, so 9 total touchdowns.
9 touchdowns. Year. That's ridiculous.
He's had 9 and 7 touchdowns in back-to-back years. So for a tight end,
I'll just say that I don't have the list, but if you said a guy scored 16 touchdowns in the past 2 years, I'll bet you could have a list as long as my arm of these like first round guys, second round guys that you're building teams around that haven't scored that many touchdowns. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so I will just close before we go to Mo, either to talk about Taysom Hill some more because we love to do that, or to close it out with his guy. And I will just say, why not? Why not Taysom?
I even before you throw it to Mo, because you're talking, and this is kind of goes back to our bus show.
Go ahead.
Chris Olave 9 combined touchdowns the last 2 seasons. Taysom Hill,
half as many.
Yeah, it says exactly half as many, pretty much, as Taysom Hill, his teammate, across the last 2 years. I'll have to make sure to tweet that one out. No one's gonna really appreciate that.
I will.
I love it though. Yeah, Taysom Hill. Exactly. 7 more touchdowns over the last 2 years than his teammate Chris Olave, 2nd round pick. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. I can get behind the why not narrative.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get either 0.5 points or you're going to get somewhere in the range of 11. It's not ideal, but across a full season,
that's the tight end position, though. Like that's what I'm getting at is once you're outside the top. I don't want to be there. I've preached all offseason. It should be an elite tight end. If you miss on those guys, I love Evan Ingram and Jake Ferguson. Like you really should not get to Taysom Hill range, but there's going to be a time at a draft this offseason where you're just like, crap, I didn't take a guy. That's all those guys. Hunter Henry. Yeah. No, we're going to talk about Noah Fant right now. Maybe he steadies out a little bit this year, but I also do think there's a chance in this more diverse like role with Kubiak. Like, what if the floor does get a little bit better? There is a chance that it like stabilizes just a little bit here. I really do think so.
There's going to be a game that you play Noah Fant and he gets 2.6 fantasy points and Taysom Hill's sitting on waivers and he scores 24.
Exactly.
It's going to happen.
To round out the Taysom Hill talk, I do have to give some pushback on the Taysom Hill Saints RB2. This guy is 34. I mean, this guy is not going to be handling carries in between the 20s no matter who goes down with injury. He is 34 years old. Yeah, wow. This is a middle-aged man.
I thought he was like 24.
No, this guy is not going to be handling carries in between the 20s, no matter who is injured on the Saints roster. That's a little much, but
that changes everything. Shit.
Yeah, a significant red zone role, sure. I can get behind that, but the Taysom Hill RB2 is a bit of a stretch. But Noah Fant is like another guy here as we round out 5 minutes on Taysom Hill. But Noah Fant, it's really once you get down to this range of tight ends, it's like, yeah, you're flinging stuff at the wall. You go with Taysom Hill and just hope he finds the end zone. And I agree it's a strong bet because in this range, like most of the guys who emerge are the guys who just end up just running well on touchdowns for the year. Like those are the guys who make the jump from the low end tight end 2s to the serviceable tight end 1s. And Taysom Hill has a history of doing so, running well on touchdowns, that is. So I do think it's a strong bet if you punt tight end. But I think another option is Noah Fant. This is really just a bet on athleticism and routes. Noah Fant, we've seen tight end 1 seasons before his 2 years in Denver. He was the tight end 11 and the tight end 12 in terms of points per game. So he's been a fantasy starter in years past, and he was kind of, if you think back a couple of off seasons, he was one of those people who the fantasy community was propping up as the sleeper breakout tight end of the future, because I mean he was producing at a starter level pretty quickly into his career, and tight end is still in this day and age one of those positions where you don't see high levels of production right out of the gates, and he was doing so that got people excited. And another reason people got really excited was that athleticism that I mentioned earlier. I mean, this guy scored a 9.88 RAS score, so just a highly athletic guy, great size speed combo. So just one thing that we love to bet on at the tight end position is those high end RAS guys. But last year and really just since he has been in Seattle, he just has been a stone cold zero in terms of his fantasy production, just not worth anything at all. But I really just don't think that's an indictment on him as a player. It's just because he was in a full-blown tight end by committee situation in Seattle these last couple of years. They were rotating Fant, Colby Parkinson, and Will Dissly in that tight end room last year. And if you go take a look at the Seattle Seahawks roster this year, you will notice that Will Dissly and Colby Parkinson are no longer with the team. They are Parkinson is in the NFC West still with the Rams, and Dissly is with the Chargers. So they're still in close proximity, but no longer in Seattle. And because of this tight end by committee, this rotation type of deal last year, Fant was only running a route on 56.3% of dropbacks last year. And I think that number is going to shoot up. Where we saw in the preseason, the Seahawks run a ton of 11 personnel. So if you're not familiar with that, it's just that means that there's only one tight end on the field. And if you look at the Seahawks depth chart, that guy is going to be Fant. He hasn't been healthy these last couple of weeks, but when he gets back, fully expect Fant to take over that tight end one role. And in this Ryan Grubb offense, like I said, a lot of 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets featuring only one tight end on the field. So I expect that route participation to take a significant jump up. I expect him to be a full-time player, unlike what he has been in these last couple of years. And when he has been a full-time player, we've seen him produce at the level of a fantasy starter. So I don't see why he can't make that jump. And like you said, with the Geno Smith bet, I want to make just directional bets on this passing attack improving as a whole. Noah Fant may be the number 4 guy on the target totem pole behind the 3 wide receivers, but I do still think that Grubb's offense will provide some value for the tight end to have some production. And if he runs well on touchdowns and can have or approach in the range of 700 yards as a receiver, I do think that he can be a viable starter for fantasy purposes. But mainly this is just a bet on him just being a full-time player, unlike what he's been in these last couple of years, and then his athleticism and what Grubb will bring to this passing attack.
Wolf, rebuttal?
I don't hate the attack. I mean, the dude is 249 pounds and ran a 4.5 140. Like, that is just absurd. 96th percentile rank in every single workout metric. He's a specimen. There's no doubt about it. And like, specimens are fun to bet on, but again, the highest yield so far is tight end 13. If he got tight end 13 as price, that would certainly be a win. But the path with DK and Lockett and JSN, here's the deal. If it ultimately that Noah Fant is a valuable late round sleeper, then the Geno pick is also going to be a phenomenal one, because like this offense just went completely ham. And it could. I really do think like Ryan Grubb could potentially do that. So I don't think it's a bad call to ever bet on a freakish athlete that was not getting a full-time role and should be this year. I just think even in that full-time role, he's behind some pretty heavy mouths. And you actually brought up a name just as a small last toss in too, in Colby Parkinson. I actually prefer Colby Parkinson myself, who goes over to the Rams, gets an absolute bag, $22.5 million, $15.5 million guaranteed, top 5 among tight ends from Sean McVay. And anytime McVay identifies an interdivision player that he wants to go out and get and will pay whatever it takes to go get him, when it's a mind like McVay, I do want to pay attention. And I know Dennis Allen was an interesting guy, but in this preseason, Allen played, and ultimately they did not put Parkinson at all. And McVay is very clear, like he will not play anyone he considers a clear-cut starter in the preseason. This guy's 6'7", already was adding real value throughout camp, impressing with using that size and catch radius. According to the beat writers, his best 2 days. And it was like, you got a pinpoint guy like Matthew Stafford. a guy that also ranked 8th out of 83 tight ends in run blocking grades. So like will never leave the field, opens up the play action game as well to be out there, and decent speed for his size as well. It kind of reminds me of Jake Ferguson, like a good overall offense. Maybe not this freakish specimen, but gonna probably get some volume. Obviously, big mouths to feed in Puka and Cup. But after that, more so as a touchdown bet too, with a Matthew Stafford type of pinpoint accuracy. I'm a fan of Parkinson as a last round stab. Plus, he's got like the best flow you've ever seen. So, obviously that determines all fantasy success as well. We've cited before too that Higbee Sun run. Remember that in 2019, the number 1 tight end for those last 5 weeks of the season. I don't think we'll ever see that again. But it's not like McVay has never used a tight end really, really well, especially in the red zone. So hey, I think there's worse stabs you can make in these really deep drafts than Colby Parkinson.
I will say I did not know the Saints head coach was playing tight end for the Rams. You said Dennis Allen instead of Davis Allen.
Yeah.
But I get the point. Yeah, it's a touchdowns thing. Dude's a mammoth. Hopefully, just a red zone target. And like you said, I mean, none of us are. I will not be leaving a redraft league without someone in the top 8. I'm not going to force anything, but like there's just so many guys available in so many different spots that I will not be punting tight end in a redraft league this year. It makes more. It's okay to do in best ball, but there's just so many options, and you can even extend that to the top 10. I just simply will not be in a situation where I have to pick up any or draft any of these guys. Maybe an injury forces me to later in the season, but as we highlighted in our tight end show like a month and a half ago, you should not be leaving your drafts punting tight end this year.
No. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.